Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
The 2-week pay period, invented in 1938 and still making us wait until daily pay, where everyone can access their money on demand. This is the future of pay. Learn more at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
There is something about a tunnel that feels inherently unsettling. You enter one end, surrounded by light, noise, and the familiar world, and then, almost immediately, everything changes. The walls close in, the light disappears behind you, your sense of direction becomes distorted. And somewhere ahead, in the darkness, is an exit you can't quite see. Now, tunnels exist in countries all over the world, and almost everywhere they seem to attract ghost stories. From haunted railway tunnels in Britain to supposedly cursed road tunnels in the United States, tunnels have become natural settings for supernatural legends. And Japan is no exception. In fact, Japan has a particularly rich tradition of haunted tunnels. Some are associated with accidents and death. Others are connected to cemeteries, abandoned roads, and tragic events. And some seem to have become haunted simply because the environment itself is so unsettling. I'm Kevin O'Shea, and today on Supernatural Japan, we're going underground. We're going to explore 3 of Japan's most notorious haunted tunnels: Kiyotaki Tunnel in Kyoto, Sendagaya Tunnel in Tokyo, and the Old Komine Tunnel in Hachioji. And along the way, we'll look at why tunnels seem to attract ghost stories in the first place. Deep in the mountains northwest of Kyoto, near Arashiyama, is the village of Kiyotaki. And there's a narrow tunnel with a reputation far darker than its modest appearance suggests. This is Kiyotaki Tunnel. The tunnel has a fascinating history. It was originally constructed as part of the Atagoyama Railway and was opened in 1929, and the railway connected Arashiyama with Kiyotaki and was associated with visitors traveling toward Mount Atago and Atago Shrine. During the Second World War, the railway was eventually closed, and the tunnel was later converted to use by road traffic. Today, it is a narrow single-lane tunnel where vehicles have to negotiate their way through one at a time. And that narrowness is important. Even during the day, Kiyotaki can feel claustrophobic. There isn't much room between a vehicle and the walls, and when another vehicle approaches from the opposite direction, the experience can be surprisingly intimidating. But at night, Kiyotaki becomes something else entirely. Over the years, numerous supernatural stories have become associated with the tunnel. One of the most famous involves seeing a ghostly woman either inside the tunnel or reflected in the vehicle's mirrors. There are also stories that looking into certain mirrors near the tunnel can reveal an apparition that isn't actually there. And then there is the infamous number associated with the tunnel. The tunnel is sometimes said to be approximately 444 meters long, and in Japanese the number 4 can be pronounced shi, which is also associated with the word death. So 444 becomes a particularly ominous combination. Whether that measurement is accurate or not, the legend has helped reinforce the idea that Kiyotaki is somehow a place where the living and the dead overlap. There are also stories connecting the area with deaths and accidents during the tunnel's railway history. Although many of the more dramatic claims surrounding the tunnel are difficult to verify, and perhaps that's what makes Kiyotaki so effective as a ghost story. It doesn't need a single famous murder or a documented haunting. It already has the darkness, the isolation, the history, and the narrow passage through the mountain. You enter one side, you disappear into darkness, and you hope that whatever else is waiting for you stays there. And another thing that just absolutely popped into my mind while I was reading this is that number 4, which means she. Now, in a lot of Asian cultures, obviously that means death, that kanji, that number. And there's a lot of superstition throughout Asia. I spent my first 5 years living in Asia in South Korea, where I worked as a teacher. And the thing that I remember in the early 2000s when I lived there is that buildings would not have the number 4 in the elevator. The way the elevators would work, there would be a 4th floor, but it would be called F. So the elevator would go 1, 2, 3, F, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I saw that in most buildings I got into. And sometimes I would hear from other people that there were some buildings that literally they would just skip the 4th floor. It would be like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because that number does have such a stigma. Now let's leave the mountains of Kyoto and travel to one of the strangest haunted locations in the middle of Tokyo. Because Sendagaya Tunnel isn't hidden deep in the countryside, it's in the city. And that's what makes it so interesting. Sendagaya Tunnel is located in Shibuya, not far from the National Stadium. It was completed in 1964 as part of a massive infrastructure project undertaken for the Tokyo Olympics. The tunnel itself is about 61 meters long and remains an active road tunnel today. But there's something unusual about its location. The tunnel passes underneath the grounds of Senjuin Temple, and more specifically, beneath its cemetery. And this fact is completely real. According to Tokyo sources, the cemetery was temporarily relocated during construction. The road was built beneath the site, and the graves were subsequently returned. That mundane engineering decision would eventually become the foundation for one of Tokyo's most famous haunted tunnel legends. Stories began circulating about strange occurrences inside the tunnel. Some drivers have claimed to hear something striking the roof of their cars, and others have reported hearing unexplained sounds or screams. But perhaps the most famous legend involves a woman. According to the story, drivers may suddenly see a woman with long hair, sometimes described as covered in blood, appearing on or above their vehicle. Well, that's freaking terrifying, guys. There are also versions of the story in which the woman's face appears in the rearview mirror. I would totally crash my car if I saw that happen. And when you consider the location, it's easy to understand why this legend became so powerful. Imagine driving through a dark tunnel in the middle of Tokyo. Above you is a cemetery. You're surrounded by concrete, you can't see the sky, and then you hear something hit the roof of your car. You look in the mirror, and there's a woman's face staring back at you. Whether anything supernatural has ever happened there is impossible to establish, but the story itself is fascinating because Sendagaya demonstrates something that happens frequently with haunted locations. The physical environment creates the perfect setting for a legend. And honestly, folks, I made a reel on the Supernatural Japan Instagram about the Sendagaya Tunnel. And I have photos in that reel where you can literally see like a drone footage or a drone shot downwards. And you can see the cemetery, and you can see how the tunnel is underneath and the roads are coming out on either end of the cemetery. It is very bizarre. So this cemetery provides a supernatural explanation to the legends. The tunnel provides its isolation. And the strange sounds and shadows produced by the enclosed road provide plenty of opportunities for the human imagination to fill in the blanks. And yet, despite being surrounded by one of the busiest cities on Earth, Sendagaya Tunnel still has a reputation of being a place where the dead might be watching you from above. Our final tunnel takes us west of central Tokyo into the mountains around Hachioji. This is the Old Komine Tunnel. Compared with Sendagaya, Old Komine feels like it belongs in another world. The tunnel was opened in the early 20th century and once formed part of the old mountain road through the area. Today, the newer road has been made and the old tunnel is obsolete, leaving it with the atmosphere of an abandoned relic. And that isolation is a major part of its reputation. The Old Komine has long been considered a Shinrei spot. Sometimes that's called a power spot, and it's a place associated with reported supernatural activity. The most famous legend involves the apparition of a young girl. Visitors and ghost hunters alike have reported seeing a female figure near the tunnel, and stories of strange sounds and apparitions have helped establish Old Komine as one of Tokyo's better-known haunted tunnels. But Old Komine has another, much darker association. The tunnel has frequently been linked in popular accounts with the crimes of serial killer Tsutomu Miyazaki in the late 1980s. However, there is an important distinction here. Although the area is associated with the case, the claims that Old Komine Tunnel itself was a location of one of Miyazaki's victims where they were murdered, those claims are disputed. Some sources place the relevant location approximately 2 kilometers away rather than directly at the tunnel. And this is something worth remembering when exploring Japanese ghost stories. Over time, facts, rumors, urban legends, and popular culture can become mixed together until separating them becomes almost impossible. And I think that's something that happens with urban legends and ghost stories all around the world. It's modern folklore. But regardless of the exact historical connection, Old Komine has acquired an unmistakably dark reputation. It's old, it's isolated, and the surrounding forest can become completely black at night. And unlike Sendagaya, where modern Tokyo is only a few meters away, Old Komine feels genuinely removed from civilization. And that difference matters because when you're standing inside a dark tunnel in the middle of the forest, every sound becomes important. A branch breaking outside, water dripping from the ceiling, your own footsteps echoing behind you. And perhaps the most frightening of all, the possibility that the footsteps you hear aren't yours. So why do tunnels appear in ghost stories all over the world? Why Japan? Why Britain? Why America? Why does the human imagination seem to automatically turn a dark tunnel into a supernatural location? Well, part of this answer may be surprisingly simple. Tunnels are liminal spaces. They are places that exist between two locations. You're neither here nor there. You're passing through. And humans have always associated these kinds of transitional spaces with the supernatural. In Japanese folklore, there is a long history of boundaries between the ordinary world and the supernatural world. Forests, mountains, bridges, crossroads, and remote paths can all become places where the normal rules of reality seem to weaken. A tunnel fits perfectly into that idea. You're literally passing beneath the earth. The familiar world disappears, your vision becomes limited, sounds echo and become difficult to locate, and your brain has to make sense of an environment that provides very little information. There's also a very practical reason tunnels feel frightening. Humans evolved to be wary of environments where visibility is limited and escape routes are restricted. In a tunnel, you can't see what's around the next corner. You can't see what's behind you. And if you're driving, your attention is focused on a narrow path directly ahead. That darkness creates uncertainty. And that uncertainty is one of the most powerful ingredients in fear. That may be why a completely ordinary sound can become terrifying inside a tunnel. A piece of gravel falls, water drips, a vehicle passes overhead. The sound echoes, and your brain can't immediately identify it. And for a split second, you wonder, what was that? And once a place already has a reputation of being haunted, your brain is primed to interpret those unexplained sensations in supernatural terms. Kiyotaki, Sendagaya, Old Komine, 3 tunnels separated by geography, history, and completely different environments. But they share something important. Each has become a place where ordinary reality and supernatural storytelling overlap. Kiyotaki has its mountain isolation, its railway history and stories of apparitions and bad luck. Sendagaya has its cemetery overhead and its modern urban legends. And Old Komine has its abandoned road atmosphere, its dark history, and its legendary ghostly girl. Are these tunnels actually haunted? Well, that's a question I can't answer. What do you think, folks? Now, there's no scientific evidence at this moment that I'm aware of proving that ghosts inhabit any of these locations, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. But you know what? That's not the point. Because whether you believe in ghosts or not, there is something undeniably unsettling about entering a tunnel. You leave the light behind, you enter the darkness, and for a few moments you're suspended between two worlds. And maybe that's why tunnels have been frightening us for thousands of years. Because when you walk into the darkness, you never know exactly what might be waiting on the other side.
the perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
The 2-week pay period, invented in 1938 and still making us wait until daily pay, where everyone can access their money on demand. This is the future of pay. Learn more at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
And although this episode was going to be about 3 tunnels, I just want to add one more, and I don't know the name of this tunnel. I'll call it the Akashi Tunnel. So Akashi is a small city in Hyogo Prefecture. And this is one more thing I wanted to mention, because a few months back, I came across a few Japanese language paranormal sites that show areas around Japan that are supposedly haunted. And I naturally checked the areas around some of my friends' houses and my family's homes in Japan to see if there were any haunted locations near where they live. And in Akashi, Japan, where one of my good friends lives, I found a tunnel under a train track a few blocks from her house. And according to this ghost map, it's haunted. The reasons aren't clear. The website just mentions that there's a ghost of a young girl or a woman that have been spotted there. So I asked my friend if she knew about this haunted tunnel, and she said, of course that place is haunted. Of course I know about it. She said my son, now her son is a high school student, never goes there. All the kids in the neighborhood avoid it. Everyone in this part of town knows it's haunted. So there you go, folks. I plan to visit with her sometime. That's an idea of hers when I have some more time. So I can imagine how tunnels, big and small, all across Japan have that reputation for being haunted. So much paranormal research that could be done, guys. Think of that. Think of all the content just visiting paranormal tunnels or haunted tunnels. Something to think about in the future for me. Thank you for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider following the podcast, leaving a review, and sharing it with someone who loves Japanese history, folklore, and the unexplained. Now, folks, I've got a few Spotify comments that I would love to share with you. So the first one comes from Michael McDonald from the Ghosts of Osaka episode. He wrote another exceptional episode of one of my absolute favorite podcasts. With Supernatural Japan, researcher and host Kevin O'Shea offers stories and legends with universal interest. I've never been to Japan, but I read a lot of history. I'm always fascinated by every episode. The research is extensive and delivery captivating. This episode features frequent guest Philip Jackson, which is always fun. He and Kevin have a wonderful rapport and share great stories on their adventures. 5 stars. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. That was an awesome comment. Love it. And you guys are all going to get to hear more of Philip Jackson in the future, so don't worry. The next comment from Spotify is by Emily on the Taida no Masakato episode. She wrote, "Hi, Kevin. I'm glad I came across your channel. I have a question. Have you ever heard of the killing stone known as the Seisho Seki that trapped the 9-tailed fox spirit inside it? But in 2022, the rock split. And ever since it split, I believe the fox spirit did escape, causing havoc on the earth. With all this mess going on since 2022, starting with Russia and Ukraine, maybe if they put the stone back together again and seal it, maybe stuff will change back to normal again." Well, Emily, I absolutely am familiar with that. And I remember when that stone split, it was like global news. It was on BBC. It was on CNN. Like everyone was covering it. And yeah, right. A lot of havoc did happen after that. And that's something a lot of people believe in. You know what? It would be great to be able to contain that 9-tailed fox spirit again inside that rock. But I wonder, even if we could put that rock back together, would it make a difference? Would that spirit be trapped inside again? Would we have to, would the spirit be drawn back into the rock? And even if you seal it, artificially, I'm trying to think of how you would do that. I'm not a stonemason, but would it work? Would it keep a spirit inside? I wonder. Good questions. I'm thinking about this right now. You've left me with some very good food for thought. Now, if you are an Apple Podcast listener, please give us a rating and leave a review, and I'll read it here. I want to get more Apple reviews. I don't have a lot of those, but lots on Spotify. So please, guys, leave your comments. Leave your reviews, and I will read them here on the podcast. Now, if you'd like to see photos of the various haunted tunnels we discussed in this episode, follow the Supernatural Japan podcast on Instagram at Supernatural Japan. And I've also made a reel already over this past summer for each one of these tunnels in the story. It's Kiyotaki, Old Komine, and Sendagaya. And in each of those reels, they're about 2.5 minutes long. There's a lot of photos of the tunnels. So go check that out. Go over to Instagram and follow us. The link's in the show notes and over at supernaturaljapan.com. Now, folks, let's talk about the most recent episode just before this. If you enjoyed my conversation with Zach Davidson in the last episode of the podcast, there was a lot more where that came from. He stayed around for another 45 minutes and chatted all about going to conventions around the United States, anime conventions, manga conventions. He talked about the haunted apartment he lived in with his wife and a lot more. And it was just a freaking fantastic conversation. He's such a cool dude. Now that's over in the members section on Patreon. And there's also a lot more of exclusive content over there too. So speaking of members, I want to thank Game Tech Match. Always Game Tech Match. Thank you so much for your support, as well as our newest member, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on over and becoming a member at Supernatural Japan on Patreon and supporting the podcast. Now, if you guys would like to know more about becoming a member, check the link in the show notes. You can, if you're on Instagram, you can go up into the bio. There's a link there, or go to supernaturaljapan.com. Well, if you'd like to reach out to me, Kevin O'Shea, with ideas, feedback, or just to say hello, you can always reach out to me on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, and X. The links are in the show notes. Or you can use a contact form at supernaturaljapan.com. That's pretty much it, folks. I really want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to download and listen to this show. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be making the podcast. So, until next time, stay curious, stay spooky, and watch out for ghosts.
The 2-week pay period, invented in 1938 and still making us wait until daily pay, where everyone can access their money on demand. This is the future of pay. Learn more at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.